To anyone grieving,
To anyone who has lost someone close to them.
We want you to know that it's normal to feel sad.
It's normal to feel shock.
To feel fearful, scared, or anxious about the future.
or worried about death,
It's normal not to feel anything at all.
Or to feel angry all the time.
Or to feel like you laugh too much, or cry too much, or sleep too much.
or to not sleep at all,
It's normal to just want to scream.
It's normal to want to continue with your life.
Or to feel like everyone has moved on around you.
it's normal to feel confused, unprepared, or helpless,
It's normal to feel guilty or relieved.
lonely, isolated, or abandoned.
Or to want to be alone all the time.
These feelings might come all at once.
Or you might not feel anything for a while.
These feelings can come at the most obvious of times.
Or when you least expect it.
It's okay. It's normal.
We all grieve differently.
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 Take each step, each minute, each day.
One at a time.
Remember to breathe.
Your grief is valid. Your feelings are valid.
It's okay to take time out for yourself.
It's okay to cry on the bus or the train.
It's not weak to feel.
It's okay to reach out for help.
Things can get better. People can help you.
Friends can listen. Family can comfort you.
Teachers can support you and doctors can look after you.
Others have been there and will be there for you.
You are not alone.
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 Welcome everyone. I welcome us all to Genius Hub webinar, another series of our webinar at Genius Hub. We are happy to say welcome to everyone who is joining us. Tell us where you're joining us from. Tell us where you're watching from. Are you joining us on Facebook? Are you joining us on LinkedIn or on our YouTube channel? Let us know where you are joining us from. So we are very excited because we're bringing us this webinar to end our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which we began since the 25th of November with the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. Genius Hub is one of the organizations who have joined hands with the international community. We have joined our voices fighting against gender-based violence. And today, we are also commemorating the World Day for Human Rights as we bring you this webinar. Welcome all again. My name is Obehi Okweabele. I'm CEO of Genius Hub, and I'm going to be the host for today's show. Shortly, our guest for today will be joining us, and today we will be talking about grief, the silent assassin, transforming pain into power. This is the topic we are going to be extracting today with our guest, who is a special and has gained a lot of insights in the world around gifts. She'll be joining us shortly. I welcome us again. And at Genius Hub, we are a human capital development organization. And we are at the forefront of fighting against gender-based violence. We are also at the forefront of using technology to solve social issues. And so at Genius Hub, we have various service divisions, and using our approach, which we call C raised to power 4, communication for development, community theater, community-based reintegration, and community planning. These are our approaches in solving social issues at Genius Hub. At Genius Hub, we have various service divisions ranging from the Genius Hub Global Initiative, which is the NGO aspect of the Genius Hub, and it gives back to the society, where we do awareness raising on social issues like the one we have today, sexual and gender-based violence. And with it, we are marking the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence as we bring it to a close with the World Day for Human Rights. And today we bring you our topic, grief, the silent assassin, transforming pain into power. How can we make use of that which has caused us so much pain to become that we have been empowered with? At Genius Hub, we have another service division, the School Club, where we have a mandate to establish Genius Hub Junior in all schools across Edo State. We have the NY TV, which is our app where we produce movies, family movies, to curb the social vices in our society. We have the Genius Hub mentorship, skills and mentorship, where we do all the ICT skills and everything that has to do with technology. And we have the Genius Hub engagement community and the online, where all those we have trained have an interactive sessions. And we bring you our webinar series because it has come to stay with us at Genius Hub. I bring you greetings from our Chief Innovation Officer, Isimeme White, as we begin today and as we welcome our guest, Mrs. Isimeme White. Mrs. Isimeme White is a social entrepreneur, impact entrepreneurship development specialist, and purpose clarity coach, whose work cuts across many youths, the Girl, Child, and Women Initiative in various sectors, including socio-economic development, programs for women and youths, community development, girl-child rights, migrant rehabilitation and reintegration, and human trafficking, education, leadership, and public service, local content development initiative, and so on. Isimeme has over 20 years extensive experience in the government and NGO partnership, entrepreneur, community advocacy, and engagement, leveraging on technology to promote growth on MSMEs and women-led businesses. The advancement of the gender equality and women's empowerment in Nigeria. And she has also been recognized by the MSME Africa as one of the top 50 remarkable MSMEs founders in 2023. Through her visionary leadership, Genius Hub has facilitated skills, trainings, and entrepreneurship development programs for over 16,000 beneficiaries and counting, including youth, women, and returned irregular migrants and survivors of human trafficking in Edo State. Genius Hub has also established regional offices in Lagos and Kano states. Isimeme has a BSc in microbiology from the prestigious University of Benin, a certification in monitoring and evaluation from ROIPA International UK, and certificates in project management and policy development and advocacy from the University of Washington. Isimeme White is our Chief Innovation Officer. I think by now our guest is ready and we are waiting for her. As she joins us. Today's topic was carefully designed to wrap up the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We've had a series of activities, and our last webinar was the intersection of mental health and gender-based violence. And today, still in the spirit of the 16 days of activism, we bring you Grief, the silent assassin, transforming pain into power. Carefully selected because we have seen the damage that people in grief and in pain have caused. And we want to see how we can transform all this pain and they become assets to us. Many people have died of grief, as we are going to be hearing from our guests, that even children grieve, things that they cannot talk about. And so today, we bring you this seminar as we mark World Human Rights Day. We are saying that we're embarking on a journey of empowerment. Even as you join us in our topic, Grief, the silent assassin, transforming pain into power, has been carefully selected to enable us get right information. Let's navigate through the paths of resilience, breaking free from grief and emerging stronger. We have invited all of us, and if you are just joining us, you're welcome to Genius Hub series of webinar. Today we are wrapping the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence as we bring you this webinar on Grief, the silent assassin. Our guest today is Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth is the president of Echoes of Life. She is the senior skills specialist, psychologist, and rehabilitation specialist. She'll be joining us shortly.
All right, everybody have a great Monday and bundle up, take some medicine, and stay warm. Okay? All right, y'all.
Bye, Dr. Harvey. Thank you.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello, this is Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you're welcome. Just before you joined, I was going to read your bio. I told them that you're an expert in this topic and that in our other conversations, you have even told me that children grieve. And
Yes.
so we're going to be putting all that together today. And so let's meet Dr. Ruth. She is a distinguished and compassionate qualified mental health professional and is recognized for her impactful contributions to mental health and community empowerment. As the president and founder of Echoes of Life, a nonprofit dedicated to rare cancer awareness and grief support, she serves as a grief coach, guiding individuals through challenging times. Leading Trashy Tribe and the Special Initiative for Children Empowerment, Dr. Ruth seamlessly blends occupational health and safety with entrepreneurial education. With a master's degree in occupational health, certifications in mental health and roles as an ASW solution architect, associate and masters. She brings a wealth of experience as a senior skills specialist and psychological rehabilitation specialist. Initiating her non-profit journey at 17, Dr. Ruth has dedicated over 20 years to empowering vulnerable communities, earning numerous awards. Her focus on the That's One Killer Grief campaign reflects her dedication to guiding individuals through grief to increased productivity. Beyond her professional roles, Dr. Ruth is a mother of 4, a gospel singer, and a faith mental health fashionpreneur. Her upcoming podcast, Don't Let You Stop You. We're going to be talking about that. Don't Let You Stop You. Embodies her commitment to inspiring others. Dr. Ruth is a true beacon of positivity, resilience, and empowerment. And so, Dr. Ruth, you are welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you can hear us, just welcome all those who are joining us.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Nigeria, I can hear you. We are in afternoon and she's greeting us. Good morning. Tell us where you are.
Good morning. This is 8 a.m. and I'm so sorry. I thought it was going to be like 9 because from my own calculation, I'm really sorry, but I'm good. You're welcome today to this webinar which we'll be having today. And I know we all are ready to dive into this very critical issue, which is grief, because it's usually underestimated, but it is key.
Okay, just before we talk about grief, we have also said that we're using this webinar to wrap the 16 days of activism and commemorating the World Human Rights Day. And we're going to be talking about that right, your own right to set yourself free. Set yourself free. Because when we talk about human rights, we're always looking at institutions, looking at establishments, looking at externalities to set us free. But today we're going to be introspective, take a look at ourselves, at our inner beings, and talk about how we can set ourselves free. That's why we're focusing on this grief. And we have captured our topic as grief because we are saying that you can transform your pain into power. All those things that have been unsaid, that have stopped us, that has limited us. Today, Dr. Ruth is going to be taking us, is going to delve into issues where we by ourselves can set ourselves free. Because we have the right, the human right to set ourselves free. So this is welcoming everyone once more, in case you're just joining us, to our series of webinar, Genius Hub series of webinar. And this one is specially dedicated to mark the wrap of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And we have as our guest today, Dr. Ruth, who is a specialist. And so now, Dr. Ruth, over to you. About grief, what are we talking about?
Okay, so today we'll be looking at grief, how to turn your grief into power, how to be empowered by your situation, how not to be stuck in grief. So basically today we'll be looking at transforming your pain into power, because most times we all have, we've gone through a lot of stuff growing up, and we keep wondering, can this pain ever go away? I tell you, pain will certainly go away. So how do you do all this? You're welcome to today's webinar. And I'm Dr. Ruth, as she said. And I love this topic because it personally relates to me. And because it personally relates to me, I love sharing my experiences and how I've been able to overcome it with everyone. Grief is bad, and complicated grief is even worse. So now I'll be looking at, I don't really know how many minutes I have, so I'll know what to do. But I'll start by telling
Just continue. Let's see how much we can take on this topic. Like you and I have said off camera, that we cannot exhaust everything that has to do with grief today.
Okay. So today we'll be looking at the silent assassin, transforming your pain into power. Okay. So what does that mean to you? So today we'll be looking at it from a very beautiful angle, which is overcoming your gender-based, understanding and overcoming gender-based violence, right? And what grief, the impact of grief in this particular sector. So basically, what is this killer we are talking about? And who can uncover this killer we are talking about? There is a killer in the corridors of our hearts, striving unnoticed, invading homes and families, causing havoc, embraced by many and destroying silently. And that one killer is what? Grief. So today we'll be taking a brief overview of the gender-based violence as a pervasive issue in the society, and we'll also be introducing our focus on grief and transformation. So how do you transform all these, your grief, into something that will be useful? I always tell people, in everything that you do, always remember that there is a lesson to learn. So what is that lesson you're learning from this particular episode of your life? Because I call it an episode in our lives. It is an episode. We didn't really plan for it. We didn't say we want to get into it, but it just came, right? And now that we are in it, what do we do? So the silent assassin, I will be defining what grief is. What is grief to you? What does grief mean to you? Grief often brushed aside. It operates as a silent assassin in the context of gender-based violence. And it infiltrates our lives, manifesting as ways that many of us do not really understand immediately when it comes. So now this is a call for action to recognize that insidious nature of grief and understand its far-reaching implications in your lives. So you will understand that grief, when it comes, most times we don't notice it. We don't even know that this is grief. So 90% of the people living in the world today are affected by grief. Do you know that? Grief is a universal experience that touches everyone. And at some point in our lives, according to a survey by National Institute of Mental Health, 90% of the people living in the world today are affected by grief. So now we're looking at it as a silent suspect. The analysis of grief. Our data shows that a number of people are affected by grief and is increasing every year. And our data here also shows that a number of people are affected by grief and they don't know. So because they don't know, they don't even know how they're going to take steps. So now, what is that grief that we're talking about? I would like to share my personal experience here. And I think it's going to help somebody. I lost my husband 2 years ago. It's running into 3 years now. But prior to losing my husband, he was diagnosed of cancer, right? And when he was diagnosed of cancer, I was grieving and I never knew. I can remember my husband used to tell me, he'll say, "You are grieving." And I'm like, "No, it's you." You know, you are the one grieving. You need to stop grieving so that you can heal. I was grieving so badly. I never knew I was. And it kept on eating deep into me that I couldn't focus. I couldn't do a lot of, there are a lot of things I would have done differently if I had known that I was grieving. And shortly after it passed, a lot of stuff started happening with me. And I'm like, what is this thing happening? The pain was unbearable. And I kept on seeking help and trying to understand what this pain was. And in the course of doing that, I realized that my grief didn't just start at the point that my husband passed. Neither did my grief start at the point that my husband was diagnosed of cancer. No, my grief started a long time ago. Probably when I was even much younger, growing up, trying to understand my identity, going to school. In our schools, most times we are being bullied without knowing. And I can remember, now I'm not as light as I used to be. I used to be very, very light. And I can remember then when I was growing up, I would be coming, when I'm passing the road, people clap at me and they keep singing, "Oyibo Pepe," and I come home, I'm grieving. I'm like, why am I so light? So I was grieving at that point without knowing. But somehow, maybe I was able to just walk through it without knowing, and through life, I went through other stuff. And I was, at some point in my life, I passed through this grieving process without knowing. So it was just more like accumulating for me. And 4 years ago, I relocated to the US. And it wasn't my initiative, it was my husband's initiative. And I remember I was feeling so bad. I was like, why are they sending me here? And I got in here and I was grieving. I think I grieved for 2 years before he was diagnosed of cancer. And I had that when I got in and started school. I got the cultural shock, and I got the cultural shock also in the educational sector, and everything was not just working for me, and I didn't know it was grief. Then boom, cancer, boom, death, boom. How do I take care of 4 kids? How do I cope in a nation I know nothing about? How do I cope with no income? How do I cope? So a lot of things were just happening to me. And I know I am relating to certain people right now. Yours may not be death. No, yours may not be death. But I tell you, at every point in our lives, if you go inward, which I'm going to give you like a few minutes right now to really think about your process so far since you were young till now, and try to process it and see, how far have I gone in this grief? Am I really grieving? So at what point, where am I right now? So I'll just give you like a few, maybe like 30 seconds to think about that. Okay. So now that we know about if we are grieving, are you grieving? What stage are you in this your grief journey? Because the first stage in the grief journey is that you are shocked and you are in disbelief. And as a sudden loss that is experienced. So, what is your loss that you have experienced right now? I can relate very well with gender-based violence because I have a number of clients who are involved in gender-based violence, and it is deep into them. And most times, the first one, you are coming from a very loving environment, and all of a sudden, it becomes brutal. And you wondering, when did this start? How did it start? How did it happen? How did I get here? So that is the initial impact. How did I get here? Oh, this man is beating me so well. Oh, these people are doing all this to me. Oh, maybe because of my my gender, I'm not being appreciated in my office, or I cannot do the things I want to do. So a lot of us are passing through this gender-based violence without knowing. We are passing through it without knowing, and it's eating deep into us without us knowing. So now you are in that shock. How much of the shock are you in? How painful is this shock to you now? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling in all these things? Gender-based violence doesn't mean it's just for women. I see men who are also abused. Children are abused every day. So it is not all about just being abusive sexually. Harassment, threats, exposures, unwanted touchings, incest, other things. When you get involved in these things, or you've passed through them at any point in your life, it means that you are being violated. Your rights are being violated. Some of us have grown to live with it. We have grown to appreciate it. And I tell you, sometimes it's our parents that get us into these things. Oh, there's one uncle living just beside your house. And every day you tell your daughter, can you just go there, help the uncle clean up? Clean up what? And the uncle keeps touching this girl. You may not really have sexual intercourse, but the pain, the emotional torture this child is going to go through. It can also be the physical violence, being battered and beaten every time. It can be the verbal violence, which includes the hate speech, maybe because of where you come from, because of your height, because of your complexion, because of whatever. It can, people just feel that they can just use their words anyhow. And I know it's common in schools, with children, and these children keep getting these things, and that's why we need to learn to teach children to be able to stand up. And these two intellectually torturing these people, talking to them, working on their psychology without you knowing, bullying them psychologically without you knowing. Oh, why are you so shocked? Why do you do things the way you do? That is why people don't like you. Who said people don't like them? Why don't you let people just live their lives the way they are? And we've talked about the sexual violence, which is very common in the society today. Then the socio-economic violence, which affects us too. Then our identity violence, trying to know where we belong. Because sometimes we may also be the ones even violating ourselves, trying to identify who we are. So now that we are able to understand where we're going to, And then you begin to have those shocks and those disbelief. Because for death, it is very easy to identify it. Oh, somebody, I can remember when my husband passed and he just took his last breath. I was shocked. I was like, did this just happen? You know, did this just happen? Where do I go from here? Okay, maybe we lost so much money. Did I just lose this money? Maybe someone just violated you somehow. Did this just happen? He had intercourse with you without your consent. Did it just happen? Maybe you had to, some people are passing through trafficking without even knowing it. And when they traffic them, you have to pay back some way. And they send you into prostitution and all sorts of things you don't even want to understand. And you begin to imagine, did I just get myself involved in this? And because sometimes we have a lot of issues just happening all around us, and we want to help by ourselves and help the community, help ourselves, help our families, and we get involved in all sorts, not knowing what we're getting into, then you begin to ask yourself some questions. How did I get here? That is the first impact. So when you're able to identify that you are in shock, you are in disbelief, then what happens? Within the first month, you start feeling overwhelmed with some intense emotions and memories. Then days later, what happens? You start feeling numb, you start feeling confused. And then, where we are right now, our journey starts. The journey towards acceptance, the journey towards hope begins. And this is where we are. For us to be here right now, it means that we want to accept our situation. For some of us, we've not accepted it. For others, we have accepted it, right? Some of us just have hope that one day is going to be better. Yes, someday is going to be better, and that day is today. So now I'm looking at this silent striker. The silent striker is going to help us with the data showing that the ages 5 to 34 years of age are the ones with the highest percentage of individuals experiencing grief. They are the ones experiencing it most. So, like I always tell people, grief kills, but complicated grief kills faster. So we should never be stuck in it. So now, when we're talking about grief, what are the symptoms? What are the things we need to learn from our grief? How do we identify that this grief is healthy and this grief is complicated? How many of us know that grief can be complicated? Do we understand what it means to have normal grief and what it means to have complicated grief? So yes, normal grief, we can grieve normally. Losing anything, grief means you have lost something, irrespective of what you've lost. Losing a loved one, losing something precious to you, that is grief. So, and most times it is normal to grief. It is normal to experience that period of grief. But what is not normal is to stay stuck in grief. So how do we know that we are stuck in grief? When grief becomes complicated. And complicated grief is like being in an ongoing or hiding state of mourning. And that's when you get to that stage of mourning, you can barely heal, because the complicated grief will be keeping you from healing. It will keep you from accessing or accelerating to the stage where healing starts. So what are the symptoms of those complicated griefs we're looking at? One, we're going to have intense sorrow, pain, and just meditating over those things, what has happened. Keep talking about it, keep talking about it, keep talking about it. It never goes away. You want to say anything, you go back to it. You want to say anything, you go back to it. Then you know that you are grieving badly. Secondly, when you focus on nothing else but that loss that you have. Next is when you have extreme focus on those reminders of those things that you are passing through or those things you have been through. And if it has to do with maybe you've lost someone, because like statistics says is that one out of 5 people is actually grieving. 1 out of 5 people lose someone. In fact, as we are talking right now, people are dying. People are grieving. People are losing things. People are losing their jobs. People are losing their lives. People are losing their identity. And all these things can make us grieve. So when you now realize that you're having problems with accepting that situation, then you are having complicated grief. When you have numbness and detachment, you are grieving badly. So when you have bitterness, when you think of that thing, you are so bitter, you are grieving. Then also when you feel that life has no purpose or no meaning anymore, you are grieving. Okay, let me, like, for instance, a few days ago, I was on my WhatsApp status and I saw someone posted that love can be so wicked. And what is it contemplating? Suicide. You are grieving. So lack of trust in others, you are grieving. Inability to enjoy life and think back on positive experiences with your loved ones, you are grieving. Okay, are you having problems carrying out your normal routines? Then you need to check it. Are you isolating yourself from other people and withdrawing from all societal activities? Then you need to check it. Are you experiencing depression? Are you experiencing sadness? Are you experiencing guilt? Self-blame? Believing that things would have been better, or if only I have done this thing differently, if only, and you keep saying it and saying it and saying it. Oh, this brother, you are good. So when you believe that you have been able to do something different, or that something went wrong, or you would have been able to prevent the death, or you would have been able to prevent your boyfriend from leaving you, or whatever you're passing through. So there are just so much. When you feel that, oh, if only I have died along with this dead person, let me just go and die. Oh, sister, you are grieving. So how do you explore these consequences of this grief? The consequences of grief often lies beneath the surface, affecting individuals, families, and communities. And it is critical for you to understand that these hidden impacts exist and you have to address them effectively.
Okay, Dr. Ruth, can I just interject a bit?
Okay.
Quickly interject so that we keep our audience. What I hear you say is that grief does not know tribe, does not know faith, does not know age. Everyone grieves. And you have told us now that as we are even speaking now, people are losing someone precious to them. People are dying. People are losing stuff. People are losing their jobs. People are grieving. So for me, it's like a continuum, something that you have no control over. It does happen. But what we want to delve into now is that power that you can gain from all these pains that you have talked about. The power we can now use to conquer our pain in this manner of grief, because our time is fast spent.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. So now, looking at all these things we've talked about, and we all have our own stories to tell, and we have our own tools, right? So now it's time to address grief and how you can turn your grief into action, how you can turn it into power, how you can be empowered by it. And one of those things is to understand that right now is the time for action. So let us break every silence concerning grief and the works surrounding it and all the sexual, gender-based violence and all that stuff. And now transform our pain into power. So the first thing we need to understand is that the power of resilience. Resilience is born from grief, from pain. So today we celebrate stories of those who have been able to turn their pain into strength and become beacons and of resilience. And secondly, we need to understand that we have to build empowerment, because empowerment is a process. And it's only through empowerment that we'll be able to reclaim our power, our agency, fostering personal and collective empowerment, right? So what are those keys?
Okay, Dr. Reed, what was the first one you said? I didn't get the first one.
The power of resilience.
Power of resilience, okay?
Yes, so the power of resilience, there are a lot of people, looking at stories, there are a lot of stories of people who went through grief, who passed through a lot of stuff in their own lives, and they've been able to stand up and say, no, you know, there's a stage you get to. Okay, let me use myself as an example. I went through a lot when my husband passed. You know, when you see yourself climbing from the top and you are going down. And at some point, I got to the stage that I could barely even do things for myself. And one day I told myself, I have to stand up and become that person that people think I can never become. And how did I go about it? I had to begin to look inward. Where am I right now? Where am I going from here? Where do I want to get to? up to now. Because one thing grief brings is that it's going to give you low self-esteem. It means you cannot even, you believe that you are not worth anything. You can't do anything. But once you are able to break out of that, then you begin to see yourself grow. And that was one of the things I know I was able to do. I stood up, I wrote a plan for myself and for my life. And I told myself, this is where I am right now. And this is where I want to be. And because I was grieving, I tried a lot of things that didn't work. That's the truth. And later, I realized that, oh, I need to work more on my grief. I need to forget. I need to accept. And I accepted my situation. This is the reality. This is the reality of where I am. I have 4 boys. These 4 boys are grieving. I need to be able to stand up for them so that they know that they shouldn't grieve. And I took a stand personally. And that was when we got started with Echoes of Life. That was when we started training other women to be able to stand up on their feet. And as I talked to you,
that's the one you call the empowerment.
Yes. So most of those people have been able to stand up that have lost things in the past, and they are all entrepreneurs today. And they've been able to excel in that place. What grief was wanted to bring down to them was to bring them down. But they realized that no, I have to be dogged in my undertakings right now. And that's the power of resilience. And they stood up for their rights. They stood up for themselves. And they told themselves, they looked backward and they said, okay, who was I before grief? And who am I now? And who am I going to be after this? And when you're able to identify those 3 things, you'll be able to break free. And that is what we need to look at today. Because when we get stuck in our grief, we cannot identify these 3 things. So when you are able to identify these 3 things, it will help you to build empowerment. And when how is it going to help you build empowerment? Okay, it depends on what stage of grief or what type of grief you are at. But I know that a lot of people, when they are grieving, for instance, if it's sexual, they begin to feel, okay, somebody raped me. So for that reason, I need to be sleeping around with everybody just to revenge. No, you don't need to do that. Rather, you take that as your power, your superpower. Now, I was raped. You use that story of your rape and turn it into empowerment. Turn it into that person you really want to be. Okay, because I was raped, I became pregnant and I had a baby and I dropped out of school. Are you going to stop there? No. I dropped out of school, I have a baby. Who told you people don't have babies? Some people are also looking for babies. And if only they could have been in the situation that you are at, just to have that little baby that you do not understand. So you don't allow that to deter you. What do? You stand up. You say, no, I'm not going to stay where I am. You stand up, you move forward. You say, okay, I dropped out of school, but before I dropped out of school, I wanted to be a medical doctor. You, baby, we are going to go to this school together. Why are you going to school? I go to school. And you continue with that, which you need to do. So when you become empowered, then you'll be able to get back to the next one, which is the key for transformation. Because transformation now is the action that you need to take. You need to take action. You need to discover practical steps that will help you turn your pain into a catalyst for change, both within ourselves and the community. Like I tell people, there are just 3 ways, basically, before we go to the so many numerous ways that we're going to get into for empowerment and for transformation, but I just need to talk about these 3 ways to healing that can bring transformation. One is forgiveness. So you need to forgive yourself. You need to say, yes, this happened. I have forgiven myself. You need to forgive the person that did it to you. Oh, this happened. I forgive you, right? Then you need to forgive the situation. Yes, this happened. Whatever happened, whatever made it happen, whatever the situation is, I don't care, but I forgive everything. You need to forgive the situation. Then when you are able to do this, you now move to the next stage of healing, which is being you, because that is where the transformation will start taking place. So when you start being you, it means you start identifying your true self. You start identifying your superpowers. What am I known for? What can I do? What is that thing that I can do? Okay, I talk so much. Okay, let me become a motivational speaker. And now help my community. Let me begin to tell my story so that other people don't get stuck like I was. Okay, I like making people beautiful. My mentor was talking to me the other day about her mom, and she said her mom was from a very poor background, because one thing you need to know is poverty. You can grieve poverty. In fact, majority of us are grieving poverty. So her mom was from a very poor background. She was poor. And in those days, when a long time ago, they were not rich. So she used to go to the train station. They'll pick up potatoes on the floor from where that are falling off from the train. And they go home, they peel it off and do all stuff. And that was how she grew up. And when she grew up, she told herself that she will never be poor. She transformed that grief, because she grieved all through, because she was always laughed at in school, to the extent that when she was 10 years old, she didn't have clothes to wear to school. She had to take sack and make clothes by herself at 10 years. And that was what she was wearing to school. So she made those sack dresses and she would wear them to school. They would be calling her Flower Girl. And when she now realized that she loves making people beautiful, and her mom began the transformation of her life and started making people beautiful. She told herself, I must go to school. She went to school to the highest level she could, got a job, and in her place of work, she started using that skill. And before you knew it, she became a commercial artist and well known in the United States, and she made a name for herself. And now she, who is my mentor, is leveraging on that change, that transformation her mom went through many years ago. So change begins with you. Healing begins with you. Transformation begins with you. And not until you realize that this transformation must take place, you can never heal. You can never heal. You'll be stuck in that situation and you will never move from there. And most times people die there and talents are gone. So you need to, one, forgive for healing, for you to be able to get to the keys of transformation, which I'm going to talk about. You need to forgive everything, yourself, situation, the people. You need to be you. You need to discover yourself. Then you need now to start sharing your experiences with others. You need to build a community. You need to help your community. And that's why I like what we're doing right now. Building community, talking to people about it, helping people not to grow in that situation, from the pain, and turning their pain into a catalyst for change. It is very important. So now, when we do this, then we now go into the keys for transformation. And one of those keys for transformation is our collective empowerment. And what do we mean by collective empowerment? It means that our strength lies in unity. Our strength lies in coming together. Our strength lies in supporting each other on the journey from pain to power. And the way we can do that is understanding and acknowledging the our experiences, what we have gone through. Then when you realize what you have gone through, then you'll be able to build a supportive network. Who is in your circle? If this was more like an interactive thing, I would have been able to give you some of those things and worksheets that we would have been able to use to really share. Maybe in the next one, we can make it more interactive. Then I'll be able to share more worksheets. So you'll be able to work together and see who is in your circle. The first five people you are able to list in your circle is going to influence how far you're going to go in life. So who are those people in your circle? You need to create a powerful network that can support you. You need to be able to create family and friends, advocacy groups, and other pillars of strength that can support you. Those are the things that we need to do. Okay? And when we look at that, we need to amplify our voices. We need to go into advocacy and activism. We need to create safe spaces for ourselves and for those people that are involved in them. Then we need to have initiatives, educational initiatives, and foster culture of empathy, which is very key. So when we are able to get this collective empowerment, then we are going to be looking at the coping skills that can help you with whatever you are going through, which will help you transform your power into strength and into what you need to get. And some of those things, the most important one is your mindfulness and your meditations. Make sure you get involved in that every day. Then get a ritual. Establish a ritual. Create a schedule for yourself and follow it. Because one thing grief can bring for you is just working haphazardly. But when you're able to say, okay, I wake up in the morning 3 a.m., I do this, it's going to help you. Then you have set your goals right. Okay, this is what I want to be in 6 months. This is where I want to be in 1 year. This is where I want to be in 2 years. This is where I want to be in 10 years. This is where I want to be in 50 years. You should know all that. Then begin to engage yourself in some physical activities and do journaling, expressive writing. Write your story. Write how you feel every day. I tell you, grief is here. It has come, but you don't need to be stuck in it. All you need to do is to create boundaries that will be able to help you not to go back to those things that you used to do before. So our time is really like fast spent, so I'll just look at some psychological impacts that we have in the society, the grief can have in your society, that will make you not to be able to do it, and the strategies for change. So some of the strategies for change we need to do, like I said, is to have legal reforms. If you know what you're going through, you can actually write to the legislature and let them know what you're going through and see how it can work out. Then you have to do more of education. Educate and educate and educate yourself. There is nothing you can do without educating yourself. Getting knowledge is key. Learn everything that is learnable, that can help you grow. So for instance, if you know that this is, let's assume you want to be a fashion designer. What are those steps that you need to take to be a good fashion designer? You need to look at that. Are you going to just go into it, because I can sew sack, like the lady called it? Are you going to just go and sew sack? No, because you want to make an impact in the society. What are you going to do? You need to learn. In this generation that we have a lot of AIs, right? Okay, what can AI do for me? Who are those experts in the industry I'm going into that can help me grow? So when we start understanding that and start building those networks, like I said in the beginning, those 5 people, I will advise us and admonish us, as we leave this place right now, you can start writing the 5 people in your circle. Basically, that's what I'm really emphasizing on more today. Knowing the 5 people in your circle. If you know those 5 people in your circle, it will help you. Because one of those things, I like using myself as a case study, because it's not, if it didn't work for me, I will not be talking about it. When I got myself stuck, before I knew who I was so established, when I was in Nigeria. I had lots of awards, lots of everything. And all of a sudden, this happens, and I'm down. And what did I do? I realized that I was locked up in some circle, in a circle of people that were not helping me grow. And I told myself the truth. I started creating boundaries, healthy boundaries with these people. So you need to be able to create those healthy boundaries. Okay, who are these people in my circle? I need to grow from here. I started looking out for those people because I have an apparel business. Okay, who are those people in the apparel business that are big? I have a coaching business. Who are the top 10 people in the coaching business? What are they doing differently? I started going through all that, and it helped me to be able to grow. And I listed my 5 people. Do you know that when I listed the first 5 people in my circle, I realized that we were all stuck together. In fact, somebody that cannot see his front cannot help you see front. In the US, basically, when you come out and you ask someone, what do you want to do? The first place they'll tell you, go do home health, go do this. I feel like, really? And I looked at myself, I'm not cut out for that, right? And I dropped out of school at some point. And I told myself, no, the first step I need to do is to go back to school. And I went back to school against everybody's all odds. And I went back and I completed my school because I had just 2 semesters left. And I graduated. And when my husband passed, my GPA went so low to 1.6 or 1.4, thereabout. And I knew that I had to work hard. I was an honor student, and almost 4 points, and now I'm 1 point something. I needed to grow. I had to read, I had to work, and I had to do everything, and also take care of my home front. I did not let grief bring me down. I went through that. I went to school. My first semester after then, I had 3 point something. I built my GPA up to 2 point something. I went again, I got another 3 point something honors, and I got my GPA up again up to 3 points something. So I didn't end up in 1 point something, and I graduated, with an honors. There's nothing you can do other than to begin to identify those things in your circle that is limiting you. So when you are able to determine those things in your circle that is limiting you, then you'll be able to lay up those strategies that will be able to help you grow. And I know maybe subsequently, if we have these sessions again, we'll be looking more on the coping skills, because if you don't know how to cope with it, you will not be able to actually do most of these things that we're talking again about. So
okay, Dr. Ru, can I just interject again?
Yes.
You see, at Genius Hub, Mrs. Sisi Meme White actually calls Genius Hub a painkiller, because her experience is not far from everything that you have done.
Yes.
When she had reached that point, then she began to reach out to others. So when you made that point on, you must look out for empowerment, and we are glad to say that it is our secret strategy. It has worked for us, and it has worked for you, and it can work for anyone that is listening to us.
Yes.
First of all, you get up. That resilience, that power of resilience, you get up. You tell yourself the truth. It has happened, you will face it. And you tell yourself, I'm not the only one in the world. That's one point I'm taking away from here. Grief happens everywhere. As we are talking now, it is happening. So you can't let your own drown you. Then the next point you made, you talked about empowerment. When you get up, like for your case, you finished your school, then you began to reach out to others. Those strategies have always been known to work and they have never failed. Now, I just want us to wrap because our time is fast spent. You talked about where you were going to bring the worksheets so that we can really make it a practical experience for us, where you are going to bring some worksheets and you are going to walk us through so that we know what stage that we are in. So we're going to like wrap now and adjourn for the next, and adjourn so that we can have that maybe first quarter of next year where we can talk about that. But before then, we're just looking at the chats to see if anybody has any question, because you have really said a lot today. And if we do not get feedback now, it will, I don't know how it will be.
Okay, thank you so much.
Our social media handles are scrolling. Ruth, you have to tell us about your work and what you're doing. And these are our social media handles. Follow us on our Instagram, on our Facebook, and all our social media handles. And our guest too, she's the convener of what did you call that? Tribe.
Okay, Trash It Tribe. Yes,
Dr.
Trash
Ruth,
It
what's
Tribe.
that's your handle? Tribe of
Trash It Tribe.
trash to
Trash
tribe.
It Tribe, which means that whatever you're passing through, just trash it.
Trash it tribe. Yeah.
Just trash it. You have depression, trash it.
Just trash it.
Anxiety,
Then don't
trash
let
it.
you stop you.
No.
Okay. And don't let you stop you. Let's stop looking at the environment, stop looking at externalities. Let's stop looking at the uncle who did not support us, or the system is not working for us. Let's begin looking inward to see that we are not the reason why we have stopped ourselves. I think that's what we have achieved with this webinar today. Let you not stop you. First of all, agree that grief is not only you. Then you decide that I am going to get up from this place to remain like this. And then I am going to do something. You talked about looking at your circle where you wrote out the persons who are in your circle. So Dr. Ruth, in wrapping, what word will you give us for those who are grieving?
Okay. For those who are grieving, one thing I will let you know is that you are not alone in this grief. And there are a lot of resources and support available. So access those resources. Every country have their own resources. If you feel you cannot do it, then seek the help of a specialist. And also, we have Genius Hub, and I know they are doing a lot of amazing job, because when I spoke with Obey the other time, we spoke so much about it, and I know how much of work that you guys are doing, and I appreciate it, especially in the community where you guys are. And continue to reach out. Get stuck where you are with Genius Hub. Be there and learn more. Because if you do not do that, you will get to the wrong circle that will be telling you that grief is bad. Just end it. Just do this. You know, you can't get out of this thing. No. You just have to be there like that. You will manage it the way it comes. You have entered, you have entered. It is not true. You have entered, you have not entered. Yes, you entered, but you are not alone in it. When you stand up, begin to turn your grief into money. Begin to turn your grief into empowerment. Begin to turn your grief into wealth. Sorry, I like money a lot. Begin to turn your grief into sharing. Begin to turn your grief into that good thing you need to get to.
Okay. So we just have one question now to wrap. There's a question in the group. It says, we said family members can be our support system. And she's asking, how can we bear this grief caused by the same family? How does one manage grief caused by family members? Because I feel if grief is caused by the external, with internal support, one can thrive. But when it's caused from within, it tends to be more difficult to manage and to handle. So with that, we will just wrap. Just your last word on this question, Dr. Ruth.
Okay. Grief, like I said, that's basically, I think if there's one thing I brought in here today is your circle. Who are your inner circle? When you realize that your circle is your family member, and that family member is the one causing you grief, what do? You create healthy boundaries with those family members and begin to get better circle that understand you. Because whatever you're passing through, I really don't know what you're passing through. I may not be able to talk about it the way, personalize it to your own case right now. If I had one-on-one, I would be able to advise you better. But the only thing I would advise here is create healthy boundaries. Okay, if you used to share all the experiences with them, then begin to look inward now. You have Genius Hub, right? You have other circles you belong to. You go in there and you begin to share with them. You begin to break away from that. If someone is causing you grief, what did I say? I said, trash it. That's why we have Trash It Tribe. So if it is your sister that is causing you grief, trash it in the dungeon of irrelevance. Take it, put it there. Okay. It is not necessary. I need to grow. So let your growth, you need to have it. Sorry, we had a lot to talk about, like your growth mindset. So let your growth mindset be the key thing. So when you have a growth mindset, it doesn't matter who the person is. If you ask me, who is your family member? Who is family to you? Family is not related by blood. That's where we get it wrong. Family is that person that has been able to make an impact in your life. So when you begin to understand who your family is truly, then you begin to have the right family. But if you don't know that, you begin to say, oh no, I'm related by blood. That makes us family. Sister, brother, family. No, it's not because we are related by blood. It's because the person has been able to make an impact in your life positively. That's what makes that person family to you.
To make an impact in your life.
I hope I was able to answer the person's question, but if the person needs further help,
thank you very much. Yeah, so Dr. Ruth, I think with that, we can conveniently wrap.
Yes.
That family. Okay, that family is not just those who are related to us by blood.
No.
So thank you, Dr. Ruth, convener of Trash It Tribe, president of ECHOS, and we are asking you to follow us on all our social media handles at Genius Hub. And like she said, you can reach us for further contacts. Some persons are not able to share their pains because this program is live, but you can private chat us. You can reach us. Our numbers and our social media handles are on your screen at Genius Hub Global on Instagram and Facebook and all our other social media handles. So thank you very much, Dr. Ruth. Until we meet again for those other practical sessions. And thank you to all the people who are working behind the scene, making this possible. Thank you, Dr. Ruth. You know, we didn't understand the timing. So next time we are going to perhaps adjust this time and all that. Thank God. Thank you. You were still able to make it. So until we meet next time, we are taking this our last words. Family is about those who have been able to make impact in your life. Set boundaries, healthy boundaries. If a family member is not making it work for you, trash and move on. Words from our webinar today. Thank you, Dr. Ruth. And as we say our goodbyes to our audience, thank you for joining us from Genius Hub. And thank you, Dr. Ruth. Until we'll meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.